And welcome back to Whiskey Buds. I'm Kurt,
And I'm Billy.
and we are still on our search for a whiskey that he'll even actually like in the least. All right, but we're still on our search for a whiskey that he will enjoy and want to drink.
Yeah, so last episode and the one before that, I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
We did this one, and then we tried this one, and they're very similar, and I didn't really care for either one of them.
Nope.
But I thought it was very interesting to try them. So I'm happy that I'm able to try them, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I think everybody needs to understand if they don't already, because there are those whiskey snobs. We talked about a little bit, I think, in the first episode or something, but about how people get snobbish about the kind of stuff they like. And really, if you enjoy drinking it, enjoy it. I mean, there's nothing to it. I mean, it's all subjective.
Like I said before, I enjoy the aftertaste of these.
Yeah.
You take a drink and after, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds or something, it starts just, it's a good feel and a good taste in your mouth. But and then when it fades and you go to take another drink, you're like, not looking forward to that refresh.
Yeah. All right. So, and again, probably in the same vein that we're doing with this, I've been doing with the blended, and I decided it was time now to try just a full-on single malt. He did have a question, but after the camera stopped, about if it is blended but with single malts, that must make it a single malt whiskey. When in actuality, because it comes from the different distilleries, it is full-on just a blended malt, because they don't use grain whiskeys in it, so it's malt, but it's still considered a blended whiskey. So let's go with a single malt whiskey.
Wait, you said this one's blended too, right?
It is. This
And
is blended.
It doesn't say anywhere on there that it's blended, though.
No?
So
It doesn't have to.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Japanese
So, like,
has their different stuff.
so you might not. It could be blended and not say it, right?
Yep. Well, chances are. So single malt is a bit of a marketing term in a lot of cases, because there are some very good blended whiskeys, and there are some not so good single malts. And so single malt has become a bit of a marketing thing where, I mean, yeah, you get some awesome single malts, but you also can use that as a marketing term. So it doesn't necessarily equate to quality, but a lot of people do view it as quality. Same with age. The older it gets, suddenly the more important they think it's going to be.
Right.
And I've heard that some of these distillers, these master distillers, I was watching a thing on Scotch, and he was saying on there, one of these master distillers, that some of the older whiskeys are not, like the older Scotches, are not exactly where it's at with the full-on flavor, that actually some of the younger ones in the 10 to 12 year spot, if I remember right, are actually kind of the sweet spot for how good a whiskey is going to get.
Well, your 3-month-old stuff's still my favorite. So.
Yeah, and again, it's a small barrel, so it's impacted a bit differently. But today we're going to try a 12-year-old whiskey.
Oh, so how do these have ages or
Nope.
No? So
Nope.
they're just like probably less than a year old, or?
Because they're blended, they can have a whiskey in here that's 1, 2 years old, 3 years old, and another one that's like 10 years old.
Oh, so just whatever you.
Yeah, to come out with that particular flavor.
Crapshoot.
For age. And because they want to be able to put younger whiskeys in there, so they don't have to worry about an age statement. Because if you put a 5-year-old age statement, it's not as impressive as putting 10 or 12 years.
So if you get 2 bottles of this, are they going to be different?
Slightly. Ever so slightly. Because you can't match them exactly. But when we get into the single barrel stuff, then you'll really notice that where 2 barrels are going to be distinctly different. Like every bottle is going to taste different.
Really?
Yeah. So the Blantons, that's a very big popular. That's one of the first. I think they're marketing themselves that way anyway. But I believe they're one of the first like single barrel ones. Which even single malts, they each have their single term in there. But single malt means single distillery, 100% malted barley. Single barrel means it comes from one barrel only. That's it. Where single malt, they can blend from, I mean, some of these distilleries are, bottling or barreling, hundreds of barrels a day. and they could dump, 1,000 barrels in one go to make one batch of a 12-year-old Scotch, and it's a single malt. But then you take Blanton's and you get a single barrel, and you might get somewhere in the ballpark of 300 bottles, and that's it. That's what's going to taste like that bottle, and that's it. Then the next bottle is going to taste different. So anyways, let's get on with this one here. Today we're trying, I believe this is a Highland single malt Scotch. We talked about that last episode, about there is different regions in Scotland, and each one will have a slightly different flavor, different notes, different characteristics. And so this one is the Dalmore, and age 12 years, single malt, and it's a Highland. This one is also going to give us a taste of finishing.
Look at that.
So I'll let you inspect the bottle. This one is pretty neat.
So most of them, when you buy them, they don't come in a box, right?
Depends on which ones you buy.
So do expensive ones come in a box, or just...
Generally, yeah. Usually the more expensive they come, the nicer the boxes.
Okay.
Give or take. I mean, some are not always that case, but there's a very big correlation to that I've seen, is that they come into the nicer boxes. But this one
looks like maple syrup.
Yeah. What do you think?
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
I like the milk on the front.
Stag. 20-point stag.
Wow.
There's actually an interesting story to it that I don't remember fully. They talk about it on their website and stuff, about how basically the guy who started Dalmore saved the king of England, right, from a charging stag. And in doing so, he was given the rights to use the stag as an emblem, on it. And then he started a distillery, and they decided the only way to, that was the time to use the stag. And so that's where it comes from.
All right.
If I remembered the story better, it would sound a whole lot better. Anyways, what do you think of that bottle?
Highland single malt Scotch whiskey.
Yeah, this one's 12 years old, and
40%.
So with Scotch whiskey, they have to use used barrels. All right, they can't use new barrels. Bourbon has to be bourbon has to be new American oak barrel, charred barrels, to age in, to be called bourbon.
Okay.
Scotch, on the other hand, has to have used barrels, which works out really well. We use the barrels for our bourbon, send it over there to Scotland, and they get to make their Scotch in it. I believe that generally what happens is that the wood has a very strong flavor, and when you throw the bourbon in there, it pulls a lot of that out, and you get the very strong flavors in the bourbon. And then the Scotches sit in there much longer, different climate, so that they can, and they're able to pull out more subtleties into the wood.
And that's oak, right?
Yes.
Oak juice.
Yes. This could be called oak juice, yeah. Just because it comes from that. So this one, 12 years old, it spends the first 9 years in previously used bourbon casks. And then they take half of that and they put it into Oloroso sherry casks. Now, Oloroso sherry, that's just a particular type of sherry,
Which is a
brand
wine or something.
Yeah, it's like a distilled wine, or it's a strong wine, like a dessert wine, I think is what it is. It's a dessert wine, kind of like sweeter. So this one, you're going to get that maltiness of the other, and some of the similarities to the other two that we drank. But then you're going to get the sweetness of the sherry coming through this.
And then maybe a little bit of bourbon from the...
You could get a little
barrel?
bit of bourbon in there, like maybe some of the caramel that comes in from like the bourbons. But my assumption is you're going to get more of the malt from the previous two, along with the sweetness of the sherries.
So more complex, probably.
Yep. What do you think?
Yeah, that's different.
You get that sweetness?
Yeah, it smells a little sweet, and there's a weird smell in there. It's not a licorice, but it's like some... It's around... It's... It almost smells like licorice, but it's not.
Okay.
I don't think it is licorice.
All right.
It's
Like an anise flavor,
it's
maybe?
a cousin. It's a licorice
All right.
cousin flavor, smell, scent. That's very confusing to my nose.
That's good. Because it's picking up all those different flavors, huh? Those scents?
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah. What's it taste like? Yeah, very similar to the other ones as far as like that malt that comes through. There's an underlying, but then you get that sweetness, like especially when I first tasted it, it felt like more sweet on like,
Kinda, like
for the first initial hit.
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't really call it sweet though,
No,
but it's definitely. Let me try that again.
like as opposed to the other two.
That's got a lot more flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it should because it's much darker.
Yep. Well, this is full on 12 years. Like the other ones might only be, in the ballpark of a few years old. You think about this 12 years ago, what were we doing, right? That suddenly makes you realize like that was the day it was distilled and barreled.
What year is it? 2020?
20, yeah.
12
So
years ago? It'd been
2000.
never do math on camera.
No, yeah, 2008. 2008, the world was going through a financial crisis.
Again.
Yeah, imagine that.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, somebody made it. Actually, it's probably, I don't know. Like, I wonder when this one was actually bottled.
This is something else.
Yeah. What do you think? Well, I mean, yeah, this doesn't say when it was bottled, like what year or anything. Some of them will.
I think this is my right up there over the top.
All right. Good.
It's not smooth like the 3-month-old moonshine that you made,
All right.
but
Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean that one has a completely different texture than this one, but this one
Yes.
has more. That's kind of like more complex and probably maybe a better flavor.
All right. Yeah. I'll go
And
with
I
that.
can see what you're saying about what did you say it was sherry?
Yep.
Yeah, that has it. That like just kind of like adds the sherry on top. That's good.
Oh man.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow, these are all interesting though. Like
yeah.
okay, the moonshine wasn't interesting. It was just like, there's might be a little bit of flavor in there, but it's mostly alcohol.
Yeah.
The Jameson was. It was a lot more bland than this.
Yes.
And the other, like the monkey shoulder and the
Toki?
Toki.
Yeah. Suntory Toki.
Yeah, those are just more alcohol flavor and less like.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's what we need to do is get into some of these. I've been worried about getting into the stronger, like higher proof ones, because you keep talking about the burn, but higher proof does not mean more burn. So I've been trying to go gentle.
No.
And for the record, this is the most expensive bottle we've tried so far.
Of course. So how much does a bottle like this go for?
I think I paid $65 for it.
How much is monkey shoulder?
$27, $25.
I think I'd have to spend a little extra.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you're like, let's go for something I don't like versus something I do like.
I just have to drink less, but it'd be worth it.
Yep.
$60, huh?
Yeah. 60 or 65, something like that. And I think I found it on sale.
So I don't know if I like the sherry. It might be just as good without it. I don't know. I can't tell.
Okay. I think I might have some Highland single malts upstairs that we can try later on to compare that don't use the sherry finish. I'll have to double check. I have to look. I got some homework. Yeah, like,
How exciting.
like, wow, I get to find something new about my collection. This is all right.
Yep. So this is
Your favorite now?
It might be, yeah.
As far as like a real whiskey, not just like a moonshine that I've aged.
That one wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It just like it was. It almost had a creamy texture to it, and it had flavor. It tasted.
Yeah. Well,
good.
when you age it out of that wood, I mean, that's what we're getting a lot of this out of.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite so far.
Cool. Which will give us a good chance when we do a blind comparison taste test with him in one of these episodes.
This one, like the flavors must cover up the alcohol better.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit less, right, than the last one.
It's only 40%, yeah, versus 43%.
But it goes down much easier. Like, I don't have that.
That burn?
I don't want to
You're already done with your, and you didn't make a face, like...
Oh, yeah, I am, of course. That
Yeah.
$60 bottle wouldn't last me very long. Probably. I need to buy the cheap one that I don't like so it'll last a long time.
Yeah, then it just sits in the cupboard.
Yeah, that wouldn't work either.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, so I think we found a... we finally found something that, he's actually starting to enjoy that is classified as whiskey. So it's pretty nice.
What?
Yeah. He's got to make it through the house. It'll never happen.
All right. See you next time.
Yep. Cheers, everybody.
Oh, I need more.